China's military, long regarded as a disciplined instrument of state power, is facing an unprecedented internal upheaval. In the past months, a series of sudden and sweeping removals of top generals has sent shockwaves through the People's Liberation Army, PLA, and reverberated across global strategic circles. Sources within Beijing confirm that President Xi Jinping personally authorized the dismissals, a move analysts describe as both a consolidation of power and a signal of deep-rooted instability. For a nation that projects strength abroad, the crisis within its military leadership has raised serious questions about cohesion and command. Eyewitnesses and analysts alike note the abruptness with which the changes occurred. Senior officers, some with decades of service and key operational experience, were reassigned or removed without public explanation. Intelligence reports suggest that Xi's actions are part of a broader effort to eliminate perceived dissent and ensure unwavering loyalty within the PLA. For the soldiers on the ground, the sudden absence of familiar leadership has created confusion, uncertainty, and in some cases quiet anxiety over the direction of China's defense strategy. The PLA, formally established in 1927, has historically been closely intertwined with the ruling Communist Party. Its role extends beyond traditional defense, functioning as a political instrument and a guarantor of the party's authority. Over the decades, military purges have occurred, but rarely on such a scale or with such visibility. Past leaders, including Deng Xiaoping and Jiang Zemin, undertook personnel adjustments quietly, focusing on modernization and factional balance. What sets the current situation apart is the intensity, the speed, and the apparent targeting of the highest echelons of command. China's recent military history has been shaped by a combination of modernization and political loyalty. From the 1990s onward, the PLA embarked on ambitious technological upgrades, incorporating advanced missile systems, cyber capabilities, and naval expansion. Yet even as the military grew in sophistication, political loyalty remained paramount. Analysts note that Xi Jinping has emphasized the dual role of the PLA, a fighting force capable of defending territorial claims, while simultaneously serving as a loyal pillar of the party's authority. This dual mandate has placed officers under constant scrutiny. Historically, purges in the PLA often accompanied broader political campaigns. During Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution, the military underwent deep ideological scrutiny, with officers purged for political reasons rather than competence. While contemporary China differs significantly, the echoes of that period are evident. Observers point to the symbolic weight of removing entrenched generals. It serves as a warning to others and reinforces the central authority of the leader. Yet the scale and speed of the current removals suggest a heightened sense of urgency or perceived threat. Xi's tenure has been marked by a consolidation of power unseen in decades. Term limits were abolished, senior party officials aligned closely with his vision, and a vigorous anti-corruption campaign has swept through civilian and military ranks alike. Within the PLA, loyalty is now explicitly tied to personal allegiance to Xi. Analysts suggest that the recent purge is less about corruption per se, and more about ensuring that no independent power bases remain within the military hierarchy. Those who had previously enjoyed long tenure or regional influence may now be considered liabilities. Insiders report that the decision-making process within the PLA has become increasingly centralized. Orders and strategic directives flow directly from Xi through a narrow circle of loyalists. Some retired officers, speaking on condition of anonymity, describe a climate of caution bordering on fear, where questioning leadership is increasingly untenable. This environment contrasts sharply with the PLA of the early 2000s, when officers enjoyed relative operational autonomy. The current dynamic has created uncertainty about how effectively the military can respond to both domestic and international challenges. China's defense posture in recent years has grown more assertive. The South China Sea, Taiwan Strait, and border regions with India have all witnessed increased military activity. Analysts observe that the timing of the purge is critical, as China faces growing international scrutiny and potential confrontation. By reshaping the leadership at the top, Xi is signaling both internal control and external determination. However, the abruptness of these changes risks undermining operational continuity, creating gaps in strategic planning during a period of heightened geopolitical tension. Reports indicate that some generals removed from their posts held critical operational commands in key regions. These positions, responsible for coordinating large troop deployments, advanced missile systems, and naval assets, are now being reassigned rapidly. Military experts warn that even minor disruptions at this level can ripple across the chain of command, affecting readiness and response times. While Beijing officially frames these moves as routine adjustments, intelligence sources and independent analysts interpret them as a direct consequence of internal political calculations. The purge appears to extend beyond personnel decisions into broader structural reforms. Some divisions and commands are being restructured, ostensibly to improve efficiency and coordination. Observers caution that such restructuring, while potentially beneficial in the long term, introduces short-term instability. Units accustomed to long-standing leadership face new reporting lines and altered responsibilities, challenging cohesion and morale. For a military facing regional and global strategic pressures, the internal uncertainty is being watched closely by both allies and adversaries. Insiders suggest that Xi's purge targets a combination of perceived political unreliability and professional misalignment. Some generals reportedly resisted initiatives central to Xi's strategic vision, including the integration of cyber and space warfare capabilities, as well as joint operations across military branches. Others may have been implicated in factional disputes or linked to past political networks that Xi now views as potential threats. The deliberate removal of such figures demonstrates a calculated approach to reshaping loyalty while advancing modernization objectives simultaneously. Analysts point to the role of Xi's trusted aides and the Central Military Commission in orchestrating the changes. Decisions appear highly centralized, with little consultation of wider military councils. Observers note that this concentration of authority reflects Xi's broader governance style. Personal control supersedes institutional norms. While this approach consolidates immediate loyalty, it also raises concerns about the robustness of institutional decision-making. In times of crisis, overly centralized structures can create bottlenecks, limiting adaptability and responsiveness. The human impact of the purge is significant. Officers facing removal experience abrupt career disruption, and families of senior personnel often undergo social and professional pressure. Military communities, traditionally tight-knit, now report a climate of suspicion. Analysts suggest that this environment may hinder recruitment and retention, as officers weigh career prospects against potential political vulnerability. The perception of instability may also impact international collaboration, where foreign militaries assess reliability and predictability in joint exercises or communications. China's neighbors and strategic competitors are closely monitoring the developments. Regional powers, including Japan, India, and Vietnam, are analyzing potential gaps in Chinese military leadership and readiness. US defense officials acknowledge the uncertainty, emphasizing both the strategic risks and the opportunities for intelligence collection. While Beijing frames the purge as an internal matter, its effects are global, influencing calculations on alliances, deterrence, and regional security dynamics. Observers note that timing coincides with rising tensions across multiple theaters. Economic considerations intersect with the military purge. Defense budgets, procurement schedules, and modernization programs may be affected by leadership transitions. Analysts warn that shifts in priorities or delays in decision-making could impact China's ambitious naval expansion, missile deployment, and technological development. The global defense industry, which increasingly integrates with Chinese suppliers and innovation centers, watches closely, as changes in command can ripple into industrial strategy, joint projects, and research initiatives. Experts emphasize that internal military purges are not unique to China, but the scale and visibility are noteworthy. Historical precedents in other authoritarian systems demonstrate that rapid purges can simultaneously consolidate power and destabilize institutions. In the PLA's case, the dual mandate of loyalty and capability creates tension. Officers must be politically reliable while maintaining operational effectiveness. Analysts argue that striking this balance is particularly challenging in a modern military facing external pressures and complex strategic environments. International analysts also highlight the psychological impact on mid-level officers. As top leadership is reshuffled, these officers are forced to navigate shifting allegiances and heightened scrutiny. Career trajectories are now linked less to merit or professional accomplishment and more to perceived loyalty. Military sociologists note that such climates may encourage risk-averse decision-making, with officers reluctant to exercise initiative for fear of political repercussions. This has implications for readiness, flexibility, and long-term capability development. Insiders report that Tsai's purge has prompted clandestine discussions within the PLA regarding succession, strategy, and loyalty. Some officers are reported to be re-evaluating their positions, while others seek alignment with emerging power centers. These dynamics, while invisible to the public, shape the internal calculus of command decisions. Analysts warn that while outward appearances suggest cohesion, internal fissures may persist, creating potential flashpoints in both domestic management and operational execution. Global military observers note the potential implications for China's strategic posture. In regions such as the South China Sea and Taiwan Strait, even minor leadership disruptions can influence deployment decisions, rules of engagement and intelligence sharing. While the PLA retains substantial capabilities, the uncertainty surrounding command continuity is being factored into regional security calculations. Intelligence agencies are monitoring communications and movements closely, assessing both the risks and opportunities arising from perceived instability. Beijing's communication strategy emphasizes stability, loyalty, and modernization. Official statements frame personnel adjustments as routine, aimed at strengthening the military for future challenges. Yet analysts highlight the contrast between rhetoric and observed actions. The removal of high-profile generals, combined with rapid reassignments and structural shifts, signals a more urgent agenda. Observers argue that while public messaging seeks to reassure domestic and international audiences, the underlying turbulence cannot be entirely concealed. Several independent military analysts suggest that the purge may reflect Xi's anticipation of future crises. By reshaping leadership now, the president may aim to prevent dissent or disunity during potential conflicts. This preemptive approach, while reinforcing loyalty, carries inherent risks. Sudden shifts in command may impair situational awareness, complicate operational planning, and reduce institutional memory. The challenge lies in balancing political objectives with military effectiveness, a tension that has defined authoritarian control over armed forces for decades. Intelligence sources indicate that the purge disproportionately affects officers with long-standing regional influence. Some had cultivated networks over decades, commanding loyalty among troops and shaping local operations. Their removal represents a profound recalibration of power within the PLA, transferring authority to officers deemed more closely aligned with Xi's vision. Analysts warn that sidelining experienced leaders carries both immediate operational risks and long-term challenges for institutional knowledge retention. The ripple effects of the purge are being felt in training and operational exercises. Some units report interruptions in scheduled drills, delayed strategic planning sessions, and uncertainty in command hierarchies. While these disruptions may appear minor, in highly synchronized military operations, even small inefficiencies can have outsized consequences. International observers note that any gaps in readiness are closely scrutinized, with implications for regional deterrence, signaling, and the global balance of power. Expert commentary emphasizes that the current purge is part of a broader pattern of Xi's consolidation across political, economic, and military spheres. Loyalty tests, structural realignments, and targeted removals are consistent with a strategy designed to eliminate independent power centers. Analysts stress that while the PLA remains formidable, the internal recalibration introduces fragility in an institution traditionally regarded as disciplined and resilient. How this fragility interacts with external pressures is central to understanding China's future posture. Historical comparisons are instructive. In past authoritarian regimes, rapid military purges have yielded short-term political stability, while undermining long-term operational capability. Observers caution that while Xi may achieve immediate control, sustaining readiness, cohesion, and innovation within the PLA requires careful management. Analysts highlight the delicate balance between political loyalty and professional competence, noting that missteps can have consequences far beyond domestic politics. Regional implications are profound. Nations with territorial disputes or strategic rivalries with China monitor command structures closely. For India, Japan, and Southeast Asian states, even minor disruptions in PLA leadership may influence military planning and engagement strategies. US and NATO officials similarly assess the situation, recalibrating intelligence and deterrence postures. Observers note that while China projects confidence externally, internal leadership turbulence has the potential to shape strategic calculations in multiple theaters. The purge also impacts China's technological and strategic modernization. Units responsible for cyber operations, space initiatives, and missile programs are experiencing leadership turnover. Analysts suggest that continuity in such high-tech domains is critical, and rapid personnel changes may slow progress or introduce inefficiencies. Observers warn that in domains where global competition is intense, any disruption in command or knowledge transfer can have consequences for both regional security and international technological balance. Some experts argue that the purge is designed to enforce a cultural transformation within the PLA. Beyond loyalty, Xi seeks officers capable of executing modern joint force operations aligned with his strategic vision. Traditional command structures, long dominated by entrenched hierarchies, are being replaced by officers trained in integrated operations, technology-driven warfare, and centralized coordination. Analysts highlight that this shift, while forward-looking, risks alienating senior officers who formed the backbone of historical operational experience. Looking ahead, the trajectory of the PLA will depend on the balance between political control and operational effectiveness. Analysts outline scenarios in which centralized authority strengthens discipline and unity, but also warn of potential blind spots, bottlenecks, and inefficiencies. In high-stakes regions like Taiwan, border zones, and maritime disputes, even minor miscalculations can have significant consequences. Observers underscore that maintaining operational readiness while enforcing loyalty is a central challenge for Xi's military strategy. Another potential scenario involves international recalibration. Allies and adversaries alike will interpret leadership changes as indicators of both strength and vulnerability. Military planners around the world adjust postures accordingly, factoring in potential gaps, uncertainty in command chains, and shifts in strategic priorities. Analysts suggest that how Xi manages the aftermath of the purge will influence both domestic perception and global assessments of China's military reliability. The PLA's internal culture may also evolve in response to the purge. Officers are likely to emphasize conformity, risk aversion, and alignment with political directives over independent judgment. While this ensures loyalty, analysts caution that it may constrain initiative and adaptability. For a modern military engaged in complex and multifaceted operations, the tension between obedience and operational flexibility will be a defining factor in effectiveness and resilience. Observers note that the global implications extend beyond military readiness. Political stability in Beijing, China's economic trajectory, and regional security calculations are intertwined with the PLA's internal dynamics. Analysts warn that a mismanaged purge or internal dissent could reverberate across multiple domains, affecting trade, diplomacy, and strategic partnerships. Understanding the internal mechanisms of control within the PLA is thus essential to interpreting China's broader geopolitical behavior. As the world watches, the stakes are high. China's neighbors, international organizations, and major powers are evaluating both immediate and long-term consequences. The internal reshaping of the PLA signals a leader intent on asserting control, yet one whose actions introduce uncertainty into an institution critical to national defense. Analysts stress that the balance between authority and operational competence will determine the trajectory of China's military influence in the decades to come. In the final analysis, the purge underscores the intersection of politics, power, and military strategy in contemporary China. Xi's actions consolidate authority, send clear signals of loyalty, and attempt to modernize the armed forces in line with his vision. Yet the consequences, both internal and global, are profound. Observers note that how the PLA navigates this period of upheaval will influence regional stability, strategic calculations, and the perception of China as a disciplined, capable, and coherent military power. The removal of top generals is a signal to both domestic and international audiences that China is determined to enforce unity and loyalty at the highest levels. Yet beneath the surface, the human, organizational, and operational implications are complex and far-reaching. Analysts conclude that while the immediate objective of consolidation may be achieved, sustaining long-term effectiveness, cohesion, and credibility will require careful management, foresight, and adaptability. The world now watches a military under pressure, reshaping itself in the shadow of political imperative